Could William Barr be the reincarnation of Oliver North?
Okay, explain.
Everybody thought they had Oliver North, the Iran-Contra, the hostage for arms, the arms for hostages, and they were going to grill and skewer Oliver North. And Oliver North was a staunch advocate for the president. To hell with Washington. Here's what I did and why I did it and how I did it. I'd do it again.
At the time, President Reagan had his back against the wall and probably in the long run paid a political price. But Oliver North would have nothing to do with that. You know, you're not going to blame me for this episode in American history saying it's bad. I'm a traitor and a treasonist. I mean, I'm not going down that road. And he defended the president's cabinet administration and position in a way that gained him notoriety and fame in another way that he would have never. In other words, everybody won who was on that team. When we think of Iran-Contra, or I do, I think of Oliver North. And I think of the nonsensical way in which he testified when I'm a Marine, man. You guys don't scare me a bit. You went to Harvard, you went to Yale, you went to Princeton, you went to Stanford. I could care less. I went to the jungles of Vietnam. So I'm not having any part of that. I'm watching the interrogation by the Democrats yesterday. And Barr appears to me to have that same attitude. Now, he's of a different pedigree. He's not a Marine. He's not a military mind. But he's a bright lawyer who is a institutionalist. I mean, he's been in Washington forever today. In fact, I read this morning where he and Bob Mueller's wives are in Bible study classes together. And he was very forceful. And I tried to read between the lines in some of the testimony. The Republicans are offering opportunities for Barr to exclaim certain things that are positive to the president. And the Democrats are doing what the Democrats have done since Trump got there, acting stupid and silly. I mean, I don't understand. Or stupid.
I mean, yeah, stupid could be a good word for that. Riv, I really don't. I mean, I'm trying to understand where they're headed. And it's simply orange man bad. I mean, it is Trump derangement syndrome on steroids.
It seems to me sometimes that the syndrome ratchets up at certain times.
It's almost like you can't help yourself.
It's like they have the meeting, they have the conference call, and it's like we're all going to get on the same page and we're going to put another forceful push from every angle we can. So the House, the Senate, the judiciary, every Democrat that's in play is going to be playing their part.
And they do.
They do.
But Barr would have nothing to do with it. I mean, Barr used words like, Mueller's letter was a bit snitty. I thought he said something else because Lindsey had set the precedent,
Yeah, Lindsey used some words yesterday.
I mean, Lindsey was there for dramatic effect, I would imagine.
He did.
Well, but I don't know. I listened yesterday, and I went back and listened to a couple of excerpts. And to me, Senator Cornyn, made the most appropriate remark. And if you want to really encapsulate everything that happened yesterday, Cornyn, and a lot of people didn't pick up on this, but Cornyn asked a question of Barr. Senator Cornyn asked A.G. Barr if he had vetted the Steele dossier. Because we're talking about the Russians influencing the outcome of the election. And what Cornyn did was open a door, and I'm hoping it was premeditated. I'm hoping there was an orchestrated effort. These guys normally, the Republicans will meet with one another. The Democrats will meet with one another when they have these high-profile hearings. Okay, here's the lane I'll travel. And then there's a lane. In your 5 minutes, you go after him this way. And in your 5 minutes, you go. And then the Republicans and Democrats equally do that. But Cornyn asked a question yesterday that was curious and a bit out of sorts, but important. When Cornyn asked a question of Barr, have you vetted, I'm paraphrasing, not very loosely, but I'm paraphrasing, have you vetted the material that was included in the dossier? And he said, no, we're in the process of vetting that. That's important because that leads me to believe that Barr is not going to just let the Mueller report come and go without finding out, not just Horowitz. I mean, obviously we're waiting on an Inspector General's report, but it appears to me the DOJ is engaged right now in finding out, because if you think about it, the entire investigation was about what? It was not about Trump colluding or not. It was about, did the Russians try to influence the outcome of the election? Stick with me here. I'm going way in the weeds. But I think this is where Barr's headed, and I think that was the reason Cornyn asked the question. Because it was an odd question. Caught me off guard. Cornyn asked Barr, if you vetted, he didn't use the word vet, but have you vetted the material that was included in the Steele dossier? And Barr emphatically answered, we are in the process. There is indeed some evaluating going on as we speak. You're wondering what I'm going to say next because I can see where, okay, here's where I'm going. If the investigation was about Russian interfering in the election and the Steele dossier was part of that misleading campaign, did Clinton collude with the Russians? If Clinton hired Christopher Steele to create opposition research, to basically confuse the American voter and sow discontent, is that colluding with the Russians? And I think you're going to see, and I mean this sincerely, I think Barr is pissed off. Excuse my French. I think Barr is flabbergasted at the way he's treated now that he's taken on a job with this administration. I think Barr probably understood, hey, this guy's not real popular in the town I've spent the last 30 years of my life in. But I'm going to take the job because very few people get an opportunity to be our attorney general. I know I'm putting my institutionalist, I know I'm putting my institutionalist credentials at risk. And I know that my reputation of being in this town for 30 years and figuring out a way to make my way, I think he started at the CIA. And kind of, he's been a very accomplished lawyer in government. He actually referred to Mueller yesterday, and I found this a bit odd. But because there were times he'd let you see his soul. And once again, you got to watch these things in a different way. I watch it as a former politician because I don't believe there's any randomness. There is no happenstance. There is no coincidental comment. Everything is done with a sincere strategy in mind. And he said, when asked about Mueller's report, and one might have been Blumenthal, refers to Mueller as a former prosecutor or an accomplished prosecutor, Barr fired back that he's more of a political appointee. Now, these gentlemen are friends. They've been acquaintances many years. Their wives go to Bible studies together. And I think Barr has concluded very quickly and abruptly, okay, this is how the game is played once you become a part of Trump's team. I mean, I thought I understood some of the animosity. I thought I understood, the unfairness in play here. But maybe I underestimated it. Maybe there is more vitriol and hatred for anybody associated with this guy. And maybe I did underestimate. When I agreed to take the job, I knew I was stepping out on a limb. Maybe I stepped out on a much smaller limb than I ever imagined I should have stepped out on. And if that's the way they want to roll, I've been in this city 30 years. I don't have a lot at risk any longer. I mean, I've got my retirement. I've got my pension. I've got all these wonderful things that people who come up here end up getting. That's in the bag. So maybe we do need to play rough and tumble. And maybe we do start going down the road of going after the other side. Jeff Sessions would have never done that. I believe Bill Barr may. I really believe that he is Trump's confidant now, that he is Trump's right-hand man, that he is the guy willing to take the lashes, whatever they may be, in regards to pursuit of the unfairness this president has been dealt with by a city that is supposed to put the American public first. And I think that Bill Barr, if he stays in that lane, will be one of the most patriotic souls this country has seen in a long, long time.
And that was the word I just thought of. That's a patriot.
I believe that after yesterday.
Wow.
I
Okay.
did. I do. I didn't think Trump could find anybody willing to go to the post with him. But because the city is so unique, these people have built lives dependent upon the connectivity they have with the establishment. And Bill Barr's life is no different. He's got to be well regarded in that city to prosper and benefit from all the wonderful things that government does for not the American people, but the people who work in it. I mean, that's kind of the way it's turned into. That's what the city of Washington, we've told you many, many times, 7 of the most affluent zip codes in America are where? in Washington and in the neighboring counties. That's the way our government works itself now. So Barr's no different for 30 years. He's fed at the trough of government. And I just listened to the inflections of his voice, his comments yesterday, his lack of respect for people who ask disrespectful questions. I mean, he basically blew Cory Booker off. He said, dude, get out of my face with that. I mean, if he were in a bar in Pamplico, that's the way he would have. Get out of my face with that. That's shallow. That's not a serious question nor comment. And I get you're running for president. You're not going to win. But who cares what you say? I mean, it was the flippant nature of which he dismissed some of the Democrats' accusations. And I said it, and I'll say it again. Impeach Barr will be the new standard. Indict Barr. I think the crazy lady from Hawaii.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, she's a nut.
Wacko.
I mean, she is an absolute nut. It would concern me that Hawaii is a part of our union when they were willing to elect somebody as ridiculous as this lady. But I still go back to Cornyn's question, and I think it was intentional. I think it was to open the door to travel down that road or hallway. And when he said, I wish we could find it, when he said, do you consider the Steele dossier, Russia interfering in the election? Yes, absolutely I do. Well, if that's the case, then the Clinton campaign, and here's what the problem is. You want to know whose fingerprints are all over this hearing yesterday? The Clintons. They're the sleaziest characters we've allowed to exist in this most sleazy town our country has at its disposal or avail. The Clintons are the sleaziest political creatures that have come along in a long, long time. But Trump's a different character now. I mean, you've heard me say that. Trump's got a lot of characteristics and qualifications or qualities that I don't like in a president. But Donald Trump pales in sleaziness to the Clintons. And the Clintons are always trying to get off the hook. And Bill Barr may be their worst nightmare. And Bill Barr may be Jim Comey's worst nightmare. I don't know if you saw some of Comey's comments yesterday, and he's actually got an op-ed in the Washington Post or New York Times, one or the other. I mean, he's a sad soul. He's now accusing Rosenstein and Barr of basically allowing Trump to bite away at their soul bite by bite. I mean, he calls him an amoral political creature, an amoral man. Jim Comey's a fraud. I mean, let's establish that. Jim Comey is a tall man who is a fraud, who went to the Post for the establishment. I mean, he was willing to take one for the team. I'm going to take the fall for the establishment, these people who have taken great care of me and allowed me to prosper and benefit and have $1 million or $2 or $3 or $4 in a 401k and a retirement pension. And I live in one of the most affluent zip codes and areas in America. And I owe all that to not Donald Trump, but to the establishment, to the elites, the ruling class, the careers, the permanents. And that's who I'm going to go to the Post with. And I think Comey now sees some of this slipping away. And the most important thing yesterday was the edginess of Bill Barr. Yeah, I'm here. And I'm here to represent the president. And I'm on his team, and I don't make any bones about it. And if you want to fight, let's fight. If you want to be cordial, we'll be cordial. If you want to go down the road of causing trouble, I've got no problem with that. And that was odd to me because he had such disrespect for the universe. And I hesitate to say the corporation of federal government, but that's in essence who everybody else was advocating on behalf of when they're asking these questions. And all I could think about was Steve Bannon. All I could think about was Steve Bannon's comments from 2 years ago. If you believe these people are going to give you your country back without the most difficult fight you've ever been in your life, you've got another thing coming. You're going to find out the hard way what these people are willing to do to stop an insurgency, to stop anybody who they didn't approve of from having any influence or power over this political system that has garnered so much influence and power all of our lives. And Bill Barr, I believe, is up to the task.